If you watch credit card videos on YouTube, then you probably get an array of advice on a lot of different subjects. And sometimes that can be very, very helpful. And sometimes it might even be confusing. And the reason for that is that you might hear one expert who says this particular card is the best thing ever, the best thing since sliced bread. And then another expert who sounds equally credible and seems to really know their stuff would say, no, this card is terrible and people shouldn't get it. So, how are we supposed to sift through all that? What has to be remembered is that when it comes to credit cards, like so many different financial vehicles, we have to recognize that every one of us have different circumstances. Some people make $50,000 a year, some people make $1 million a year. Some people spend $1,000 a month on their credit cards. I know people who spend $30,000 a month on their credit cards. Some people have a lot of debt other than their credit cards that they're working through. Some people have no debt other than their credit cards. And I mean, we could go on and list other things. Some people have high retirement accounts, some don't. Some people are doing a two-player strategy where they have a husband and wife who are working on things together. Other people are single. I mean, everyone's circumstance is totally, totally different. And the reality is that all of us are no two lives and no two financial circumstances look exactly alike. So both of those credit card YouTubers, both of those experts are completely honest, and I believe most of the time are genuine when they tell you that they believe a card is great or when they believe a card isn't all that good. Because from their perspective, or for most of their viewers or the people they know and have given advice to, maybe it is good or maybe it is terrible. But every single viewer, the thing is it's not cookie cutter, and we have to make that determination on our own. There are so many things, so many factors that play into this. So I want to talk today about what is perhaps one of the biggest reasons or the biggest things to factor in when you're trying to decide what does all of this information about this card mean for me and for my finances. So if you would please hit the like and subscribe button and let me tell you about it. Now, I think one of the biggest factors to be considered is what do you want to do with these cards? Why are you wanting credit cards? If a person simply wants credit cards as a means to an end, and that's oftentimes how it's presented in the credit card community, is that this card is great to help you travel or to do this great vacation or to save you money on this or on that. And there is nothing wrong with that motivation. I think all of us have that as a motivation. But I think the question is that your sole motivation? Is that the sole reason you want it? In other words, do you see credit cards as a tool of utility? Is it something you just want to get and to be able to use? You don't care anything about the cards other than what they're giving you, what you're getting out of it. And so you're wanting it to book your business class or even economy class and get more trips out of the deal. Or is there something about that card in and of itself that intrigues you? And that separates the people that aren't about utility. When you get to that point, there are some people who love credit cards and points and miles because they like the game of it. They enjoy it as a hobby, not as just a means to an end, not just for its utility, but for its hobby value. And it's a game to them it's a challenge that they're wanting to win. And those are very, very different kinds of people. And there's nothing wrong with either one, but it's going to vastly change what a card might mean and whether or not it is of great value to you or not. So, are you a gamer or are you simply looking at cards for what you can get out of them? Is it just for the utility? And I think what it comes down to is this question. Are your cards, are they a tool or are they a hobby? Are they just something you use in order to get something back from it? Or are the cards and the game and getting your value, is that something that to you is a passion? And if you're on one side of it or the other, you may not understand people who see it the other way, but both are a valid, legitimate use. So I think it comes down to people who use their cards for the utility of their cards versus a term that I think I'm the first one who's come up with it. This is how I'm going to refer to it. and that is those who have a credit card arsenal. I don't want to call it a collection because a collection kind of indicates something that you just acquire those items and you just want to look at them from time to time and put them on the shelf. And that doesn't really describe people who are playing the credit card game at a high level. No, it's more than just cards that you're getting to just put in a display case and to say, look at the nice cards that I have to show. No, no, no. They'll cancel cards, they'll get other cards because to them, it's more than just a collection, it's an arsenal. In other words, each card has a utility, a specific purpose. Each card has a reason why it's there. For some of them, it may be multipliers. For some of them, it may be status. For some of them, it may be benefits that they give in this way or that way. But everything has its own slot, its own purpose. It's your arsenal. And each different tool in that arsenal has a different purpose. And so that I think is a good way to describe it. People who have not just some cards for what they can get out of it, but they have an entire arsenal of cards in their possession. And they think a lot and they are passionate about how to use those cards for the very, very best value. Now, both types of people are wanting to get free trips, and both types of people may be wanting to get free rooms or maybe wanting to get upgrades or whatever it may be. The difference is whether or not, really, it comes down to is it a passion for you? Is it a game? Do you get thrilled about getting back your credits? Or are the credits things that you just need to get back to offset the fee? That's how you really tell. How emotionally involved are you in the game? So, whether or not a person has a card arsenal and is passionate about it and is more than just a person using the cards for their basic utility is going to really matter when it comes to evaluating cards because it's so interesting because one particular expert will say this card, let's take the Chase Sapphire Reserve, for instance. This is a good card because it has great multipliers. But someone who has a card arsenal, in all likelihood, in every one of those good multipliers that the Chase Sapphire Reserves has, it has 4x on flights. Well, it doesn't have a place in my wallet because I got more than 4x on flights and with many of my other cards. And then you see it's got 3x on dining. Well, I get more than 3x on dining, so it wouldn't have a reason to be in my arsenal for that particular purpose. And so that is something that has to be considered. And someone who doesn't have a lot of cards, who doesn't have a passion for this, and are just using them for what they can get back from them, they might see one card as much better than someone who has a whole arsenal. And vice versa would be true as well. So I want to just share a few areas in which being able to determine which type of card user you are will really make a difference when you're evaluating particular cards. The first is multipliers, as I just mentioned. So on multipliers, I mean, there are some cards that people say, well, this is a great 3x card. This is a great 3x card. But for instance, many of us now who would have a card arsenal have the built palladium as kind of a foundational card. Well, that card, if you're using it to its maximum capacity, and most people with a lot of cards you're getting it points back on both your rent or mortgage, you're getting them on points accelerator. So you're getting over 3 cents per point on just about everything you spend. Well, for that person, that makes other cards that are advertising 3x in certain categories kind of irrelevant because with Build, you're getting 3x on pretty much everything. So for the person with a card arsenal, it doesn't make any difference whether they have 3x multipliers. They're irrelevant. But for somebody without a card arsenal, suddenly that card, wow, it's got 3x in gas, it's got 3x in dining, it's got 3x in travel, it's got 3x in this other category. They might say, wow, that is really a great card. And they'd be right. For them, it would be a good card. The same card could be perfect, or it could really not have a place in the arsenal of the person who has a bunch of cards. So multipliers. Now, for instance, here's a good example. So I get 5x on my dining, but one of the cards that everybody says is the best food card in the world is often said to be the Amex Gold card. Well, the Amex Gold card gives 4x on dining. Well, I agree. That's a very good multiplier, but it's not as good as what I have. So it doesn't have a place in my arsenal. So multipliers can be both great and they can be just kind of meh, kind of subpar. depending on whether or not a person has a bunch of cards that they're passionate about getting maximum value out of. The next one, and I think the biggest factor, is probably credits. What kind of credits back on especially high annual fee cards is a person receiving? Well, some of these credits you've got to consider, is this a repeat credit? So for someone who's getting their first card that would be considered kind of a high level travel card, Priority Pass might move the needle. But for people who have a card arsenal, let me tell you, the most irrelevant, meaningless perk that a card can give is that Priority Pass. It doesn't mean anything when you have 7 cards that give Priority Pass. So that same perk can either be the greatest thing for somebody or it can be totally, totally meaningless. So, what about people who have a card arsenal? What are they looking for? Well, they're looking for credits that are unique and different or in areas that can be repeated, but not on the same exact thing. So, like for instance, Built has their great ability to pay your rent or mortgage. Well, what if tomorrow a bunch of the other companies, Chase or Citi or Amex or whatever, came out with an ability to pay your mortgage? Well, that wouldn't be of any benefit to people who have the Bill card because you only got one mortgage and you can only pay it once. And so that is a benefit that if it's repeated, that doesn't matter at all. And that's true in a lot of areas. Like, for instance, if you have an MX Platinum and then your spouse has an MX Platinum, but you only have $25 a month in digital entertainment credits, well, suddenly you've got another digital entertainment credit that you really don't have anything to use it for. So it's not a particular credit that can be repeated. But there are some other credits that can be. For instance, hotel bookings. Pretty much, if you get a bunch of hotel credits on all your different high-end cards, the only question of whether or not those are going to have value to you is how much money can you spend on your hotels and how much time do you have to go to hotels. So if a person could literally travel 365 days a year and didn't have a particular budget, they could spend cash out of pocket to get back the credits, then there would hardly be any limit to how many hotel credits they could use. But a person who maybe gets 1 week of vacation a year doesn't want 7 different hotel credits that have to be used. And especially if they need to be able to pay for hotels with points, they don't have cash in their budget to expend in order to get back those credits. Well, that wouldn't really work for them. So that has to be evaluated. So for a person with a big credit card arsenal, that either could or might not at all be valuable. Now, what about like dining credits? Well, we pretty much all eat at one time or another, and dining credits can be very, very valuable to somebody who has, a big arsenal of cards because even if you eat out with restaurants with one card, you can eat out at more restaurants with the other if you have a big enough budget for eating out and all of that. But then there are other factors. Like, for instance, I love dining credits. I would get cards that have dining credits all day, every day because we eat out a lot and we spend a lot of money in that category. But here's the problem. For instance, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I love their dining credits that they offer, but there are no restaurants in their network anywhere near where I live. So could I use it when I travel? I could, but the value is kind of diminished because I can't just get in my car on a random Thursday night and say, hey, let's go to dinner and drive 10 or 15 minutes and go to dinner. No, I'd have to drive 4 or 5 hours to go to dinner. So suddenly that credit is diminished for me. But if other cards come out that have dining credits at restaurants I can get to pretty easily, I probably would consider that to be a useful card, even though I have other cards in my arsenal. So those are all factors that are going to be considered. And the last one I want to mention is annual fees. So for someone who's just looking for their total utility, in other words, what am I going to get back from this card? They're going to be very concerned about how much am I putting out in annual fees, which makes a lot of sense. I totally get it. But for those who are looking at it as a passion, as a hobby, well, as long as they feel they can win the game and get back, they'll add more annual fees. I mean, and sometimes people will have really crazy high annual fees. Mine myself are not quite to $10,000, but I'm etching that direction. And I know people in this who have 20,000, $30,000 in annual fees and they're happy. They're adding more cards and they're getting back far more than that because they want to think about it all the time. They want to focus on it. It's their hobby, it's their passion. So annual fees really are a problem for those who are maybe just trying to use the card for utility as they're looking at the overall total. Whereas the person who is got a card arsenal, that person might simply be looking at this individual card and not so concerned if it has a $100 fee or a $1,000 fee or a $1,500 fee. That might not matter near as much as how much am I getting back if I play this game well, if I play this game hard. How much am I getting back of that annual fee? Is it going to make me money in that sense? So I think that's often the thing that has to be considered as well. Well, I know that all of this was just a ton of information, but I want to just be able to help people to evaluate and realize why it is that they can see two experts talking about the same card and both seem sincere, and I have no doubt that they are. And both seem like they're trying to give the best opinion they can, and they are, but yet they come out on opposite ends. It's because it's just not the same for anybody. And both of them are truly right, depending on who is watching the video. So at the end of the day, it's just going to be determined by your own circumstances. And you've got to be able to filter through. I mean, there are some cards that I hear most other experts in the space that they'll say they're terrible, and I think they're great. And there are other cards that I hear people talk about being great, and I just can't make it work. And really, when it comes to credit cards, you know your finances like nobody else. That's kind of how we all have to do it. Well, thank you for staying tuned today. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And as you go forth, my channel, we talk about a lot of things that often apply to people who have got a big card arsenal, but hopefully apply across the board as well. Thank you for being here. I will see you here next time.